Greetings, my name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates. It's meant for the Core New Core. And it's meant for my patrons, Clayton and Ruby and Stephanie. You can become a patron at patreon.com, and I at least need a couple dozen more patrons at $1 a month to cover the cost of my website that's out there and available to everyone. So it's also meant for those seeking to survive and thrive as a Pilates instructor, get a better handle on what that even means, and to expand oneself as a student as well, of course. So, I have a friend on Facebook who came across to me as all engagement gimme, engagement to get, and I talked about that yesterday and even got to talk about that while that viewer, who I consider to be a student if they're viewing, because I realize that's the presumed relationship between me, the teacher, and you, the student. So what's the difference between teaching and instructing? When you teach, you ask a person to think, and when you instruct, you ask a person to do. Therefore, teacher is thinking and instructor is doing. Do this, do that, do this. Teacher and thinking is different than instructor doing. Within the MMP point of view anyway, and I encourage you to compare that to your point of view. On that subject, what racing by in my mind was, in ice skating it takes 2 ice skates. You have to push with one and then you get to glide until you push with it and glide. And I think of, as an instructor, trying to come in on a beautiful glide of instruction. I'm talking ideally, okay? And that really the only thing to interrupt the instruction is if you need to get to the other skate and employ thinking to correct somebody's posture or to explain something going on. Most usually, someone raises their hand or interrupts the focus because the focus is too much. And it's perhaps even an unknowing need to or inclination to break that kind of focus or step into that kind of attention, or whatever, a question, a serious question. The point is, there's a difference between thinking and instructing, between being a teacher and being an instructor. And when your instruction is going well and you're in flow and everyone's following along and things are going great, someone takes it to a point where it interrupts the flow, the instruction, and the key is to address the thinking as expeditiously as possible, as safely as possible, knowing that everybody that was in the flow of following your instruction is there impatiently waiting to come back into chasing the ball, your instructions. As the instructor, it's up to you to get and be and stay out in front of the instructions that others are pursuing. There's so much to being an instructor. So Jonathan, I'm listening to a conversation I'm having internally with someone that seems very interested in what's going on, what's available in Joe's original work to find clarity. You know, I do it too. I did it more passionately than I have done it. I have done it more passionately in the past than I've done it recently. Because all that splashing took me to, I hope, what yesterday's message was about, insofar as you have to go beyond what's in the original work to see the ideal within, my opinion. And in seeing the ideal within it, then most of the pieces of Joe's original work are consistent and resonate with the ideal within. And that's what sets you free as an instructor and empowers you as an instructor, because you know, hey, there's an idea behind this. It has structure to it, and that frees me now to pursue the structure without performing dogma. I might have said essence there instead of structure. So my number one and my only one thing, and what would I say to Jonathan? So for wherever you're coming from, as big a snob as you can possibly be, or someone who's as open-minded, as interested, as sincere, wanting to learn and know can be. It's to the sincere learning and wanting to know why, at least a point of view about Pilates that explains what it is and why it is, what you're aiming for, how to hit it, that it comes down to pursuing an ideal that becomes real in an experience. That's MMP. And so, see, my title ended up being Getting to Joe's Message. And so that assumes there's a message in the first place, which much of the culture, a broad part of the spectrum of what expresses itself as Pilates, operates as though there isn't one, whether they're unaware of it or aware of it and ignoring it, no matter what the why is for not being aware of or acknowledging the message. is because it gives legitimacy to Joe's work as having a message, and that there is a message. And see, MMP says, oh yes, of course, Joe's method is a message. It is a poem in the pursuit of ideal expression of movement in preparation for whatever is called upon it as a human being, i.e. survival. So, imagine going into a parking garage that you weave into way down to the bottom, and it's all full. It's like hard to find any place. When it comes to anything, when you go from not having a point of view among a lot of points of view, meaning everybody's got a point of view that has a car in the parking garage, right? MMP is an elevator that takes you directly to the heliport on the roof that's all warmed up and ready for you to take off, and you know how to fly. Because it gives you perspective, and the perspective allows you to move around as though you're in a helicopter flying around. I guess the first comment about getting to Joe's message is getting to even entertaining the notion that there is a message. And if you don't want to believe there is one, that's okay. Or that there's a point to it, if there's some, so. My notes go, you don't know, or I don't know, and I don't know sounds better. I don't know what you're looking for. I don't know what you're looking for from your enthusiasm for Pilates. I don't know what you're talking about because I'm so obsessed with what I'm talking about and making a broadcast and wanting you to get enough out of this broadcast to become a patron. You'd be my fourth one on it, and on a different continent. So, Joe's message is right out of Joe's book, Return to Life Through Contrology. So the MMP point of view, which is one point of view out of thousands, millions, because we all have our own point of view, but this point of view is still unique as far as I know, but maybe not for long. But certainly the first point of view of Pilates, to step outside of a structure of lineage and generation, and go straight to the source of Joe's book and seek to take meaning and experience from it. So there's Joe's definition, and there's the MMP definition. And I encourage you to know them both by heart, no matter what else you think of me personally, or of the point of view of MMP. Because Joe's definition, contrology is complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit, says it all right there. The MMP definition that I would have you know by heart is uniform eccentric loading flowing through progressive patterns of movement. Uniform, eccentric, loading, flowing through progressive patterns of movement. That's the MMP definition of Pilates. Now, MMP as a POV takes Joe's definition to mean being, thinking, and observing, with all of the characteristics of observing that quantum physics has such intrigue with. The characteristics of observing has to do with physics. It has to do with Joe's definition within MMP. So you're new and you're well intentioned, and you've done a lot of Pilates at a level, at a blue pill level, where you're operating within that norm of lineage and generation and no explanation. And so that's why the MMP point of view is transcendent to what the norm is, because it goes beyond the norm and takes a different point of view. Not based on folklore and hearsay, not based on lineages that grew around people that worked with him, but instead based on a theory. There's an ideal within Joe's original work, namely his book, his definition, his promise, and his sequence, upon which you get to an appreciation of the ideal and the real, insofar as the experience that you seek when doing Pilates. The trip from the elevator in the depths of the parking garage to the heliport is one of you to be willing to take. And maybe your destination is somewhere else, or you want to see what every floor is like on the way. But for me, in my point of view, what awaits you as a Pilates instructor in understanding CT and MMP is your ability to distinguish yourself and the product that you deliver, the value that you deliver, just based on the experience of whatever else is out there in the tsunami of Pilates passion. It's not rocket science, and it's easy to understand. And the aristocracy and why it's glued together and the way it's glued together will always be what that is. It's just that the clouds are lifting on that iceberg of perception. To force the perception into the awareness of the reality that supports it. Right? That's a great graphic. So if you go on my Facebook and look at my wall, perception is the peak of the iceberg, and beneath it is reality. And the iceberg like's all covered in snow. I would have it be all in a cloud, right? And so there, in recognizing or taking, even if it's just what you make up or choose, the way you choose to look at it. See, I'm not trying to assert it has to be everybody's way, but by recognizing Joe's definition, you connect right to him. By interpreting his body, mind, and spirit to being, thinking, and observing is totally an MMP point of view. And in that, the observing is just something different than the thinking, the prefrontal cortex. And I attribute observing to amygdala and hippocampal areas of the brain that feed data into the brain of what it's really like out there. Assuming reality again, right? So, I don't know why this just doesn't blow away people that are interested in Pilates and find it as a transcendent point of view that allows them to teach based on understanding that I would hope gives them or gives you a more efficient, more fun in the process. So, through MMP, you say, just in Joe's book, he delivers the goods, he delivers a message, and that his definition of his method is complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. That is a state of being in the body in the moment of the doing, according to MMP. And that state of being in the body in the moment of the doing requires the presence of all three capacities in the human being. And observing is the most elusive. But when one dives into their effort and finds an interaction or finds the experience of what I think it's like to have any momentary coordination between being, thinking, and observing, that's happening in the now, because observing only happens in the now. And as the instructor, what are you doing? You're being Yoda, sending a student into the cave of their own sensation, having them evaluate in order to take more control of their own movement, of themselves. Don't underestimate. Don't underestimate your own ability to take what you learn and have what you add to it be that much better. That's the fun of participating, right? Especially as an instructor. So, go thrive. Go thrive, because life can't live forever. Read between the lines and see behind the curtain. And add two and two. Direct your thinking. Geist.